What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon GO Battle League content. In today's video, we're taking a look at this super strong team in the Great League Remix that shot me up to expert on stream on Wednesday after 6 consecutive positive sets, topping it off with a 5-0 to smash the expert rank. Let's get into these battles. We got a Jellicent, Carbink, Steelix on the team. We're going to see how this goes. Steelix is the typical safe swap on this team. Use it to draw out those Poliwraths and use the Psychic Fangs to really make them want to shield, throw their energy so that Jellicent can get that farm. But we see a Mirror Lead here in the first game, which is kind of dangerous because if they decide to win this matchup, then I'm kind of screwed in the back. So I bait here because most Jellicents will shield because they don't want to take a Shadow Ball. And I'm going to call a bait here because my opponent shielded my Surf. That means that they're basically going to have to throw energy or throw a bait here in order to catch back up on energy. And then my opponent reads my mind, even though I farm up one extra, and they go and they throw in their Lickitung to catch the Shadow Ball. Very nice play by my opponent here as I now come in with my Steelix because Steelix does have a pretty good matchup here. It's not as good as when it had Breaking Swipe because Psychic Fangs doesn't even do as much damage as Breaking Swipe. Plus, the defense drop isn't as impactful to Lickitung as the attack drop would be in a long matchup like this. So what I've started doing here is after I get that first drop, I'll go for a Crunch instead. I do run Crunch on the Steelix, and that usually puts the Lickitung within farm down range. I have to give up one shield in this matchup though, in order to take it, which I do. So we're even shields. Now what I need to do is I need to get to a Crunch against the Jellicent, but the opponent throws the energy right away, which is fine. They had extra energy, now they're using it, so my Jellicent hopefully is a little bit more caught up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call a Surf here. I think my opponent is going to throw another Surf because I'm low, and they do. They throw the Surf, and then I'm going to go for the next Shadow Ball, and they catch it. Again, this trainer is reading my mind, and I'm going to throw the Shadow Ball into their Steelix, and unfortunately, I'm not going to survive long enough to be able to get to another Surf, so I'm forced now to pivot into my Carbink. Now, if you don't have Carbink and you don't have one built, because I realize this is an XL Pokemon, you can absolutely run this with Gligar. There was a trainer, Matt Beer, who ran this team with Gligar over Carbink to Legend. So either way, it's a viable team if you have just run Gligar. Now, opponent saving their shield for the Jellicent. I'm hoping that at some point I can pivot out, maybe catch a Surf on my Jellicent if possible. You know, my opponent catches moves, maybe I can too. But I'm going to have to end up shielding one of these moves because I don't remember exactly how much energy this Jellicent has on the opponent's side. But all I need to do is get to 2 moves here or, you know, get them low enough where Jellicent can hex down something. So they go for the Surf here, and now I'm going to go for the Rock Throw. And then into the Rock Slide. We'll do 1 and then the move. And now I'm expecting they might be 3 away. So 1, 2, 3. And I wait the extra turn, but my opponent sees it coming. And unfortunately, I'm not able to get there. I hope that I live this Surf. That's the only way I win this Surf. But unfortunately, not going to be able to take it. Little Binky that couldn't goes down, and that's a good game. Getting to game number 2 here, we got a D-Knight on the lead. I'm going to go straight into Steelix because both of my back Pokemon are much better responses to this. But the nice thing is that in a situation where maybe I bring out a Poliwrath, right? Jellicent can farm it down and it can shoot a Shadow Ball or bait with a Surf. So at least Jellicent has play against the Dragonite. But the opponent does bring in the Lickitung, and I, once again, as I always do, I shield the first move because it's going to be the Power Whip. They're not going to throw Body Slam in this situation. And then I'm going to go for that Crunch. After the Crunch, I should be able to farm this thing down. And then after that, at that point, I've got Switch Advantage, which is really what I want here. And that's going to be basically all I need. Because if I can get my Carbink on this Dragonite, then we're chilling. And so now the opponent comes back in. They're probably going to come back in with the Dragonite and farm down here. But I do have the ability to throw this Crunch for quite a lot of damage, actually. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to let the Dragonite take me out. If I'm lucky, I get a defense drop, and then I land the Dragon Tail. But I don't get the drop, but I still get to land the Claw or the Tail. But my opponent has Jellicent in the back, which makes this a very, very difficult endgame here, as even though they have a shield advantage, this is not easy. Now, Rock Throw, thankfully, that does add up. My Jellicent is extremely healthy. It can take a Shadow Ball if it has to. So I'm going for this Rock Slide here, and then my opponent has to shield moves at this point. So what I'm hoping to do here is I'm hoping to get their final shield and then go into my Jellicent and throw a Shadow Ball. That's kind of like my forward thinking here. I just need to get to that move. So I'm going to go for good timing here. I know my opponent was basically throwing their Surfs as soon as they got them, and then and they shield, and at this point, I'm just going to basically catch the surf, because they were going to go for it at this point. I figured my opponent's throwing with good timing. They didn't throw already. They're going to go for one more hex and then go for it. I can just go for a surf if I want to here, and I think I can take a Shadow Ball, but I'm not going to take the chance. I'm going to just go for the shield here, shield up the surf, go for my own surf, because I don't know how much energy they had, but at the time, I realized that that was a CMP tie and that could have been bad. So, opponent going to come in with the D-Knight now, and I can easily tank a Dragon Claw here. That's why I was I threw right away to get rid of the Jellicent, because I would rather take a Dragon Claw than a Shadow Ball. And that's going to be basically game here. So, taking that Dragonite out with the Surf, and getting Switch is really, really huge here, because it helped me take care of the Dragonite. Good game. All right, we got Jellicent on the lead against Whimsicott. The Whimsicott, dude, I think I have not won a single one of these except one. And the Whimsicott by itself just throttles this whole team, because it has Grass Knot. It gets to it very quickly thanks to its Fairy Wind, and Jellicent, everything just folds to Whimsicott. So very heads up pick in this meta if you're running it. It's a very strong pick. And now, unfortunately, I'm not able to get to my Psychic Fangs, as my opponent does get the damage through on their fast move before my charge move registers, which is normally what happens, but it doesn't always happen. Me whining about new mechanic, right? So I'm going to farm down the Poliwrath entirely. I'm hoping that this Shadow Ball lands. Maybe I have a chance. If I land the Shadow Ball, it'll be within some kind of Rock Throw range, or if I can get shield advantage, it'd be nice. That's not Rock Throw range, are you kidding me? And then they have a Skarmory in the back. There's really nothing I can do. This trainer has hard countered me from back to front. Normally, you wouldn't think that Skarmory is able to beat a rock type that has rock moves, but unfortunately, because of that Steel Wing update, it's doing double super effective to my Carbink, and I shielded that by mistake. I wasn't supposed to shield it. I think I was just kind of frustrated, and I just hit the shield button by accident. I was hoping to 2-shield with Jellicent and try and make some magic happen with that, but unfortunately, opponent is going to go ahead and farm me down here, and I either have to shield this, or I have to shield the Grass Knot that comes after. So at this point, I kind of just know it's over. Let them have their Brave Bird, take me out. Good game. Hard counter. What can you do? Oh, forgot to take out the Q time there. But yeah, no, this team basically it's just super strong. Like you Steelix on the safe swap with Psychic Fangs in this meta is disgusting. We get a Magnezone on the lead. This is another thing that breaks the team up a bit, and I'm really scared, but you got to watch this game. This was actually insane. So the opponent is ABA weak, at least to fighting, which is wild to me. Not wild charge, but just wild. But they come in with a Lickitung, which I can beat. And if I can make sure that I've still got some HP remaining after this matchup, I can threaten that Magnezone with a move. So I'm going to go do what I usually do. Going to go for the crunch and then go for that farm down after spending a shield on the Power Whip. And I'm hoping that I'm going to come out with enough HP that the Magnezone is not going to be able to farm me down, right? I need just enough HP to avoid that situation, which I'm getting kind of close, not going to lie. So they could come in and farm me down if they wanted to, but they're looking to wait out their switch timer, which is smart. If they need alignment, they want to wait that out. And then they come in with a Mantine. So Mantine, unfortunately, a little bit thick, but at least my Carbink has a target. My Jellicent has a target. So I'm going to go for the double Psychic Fangs here, just do as much chip damage as I can. Probably should have just gone for a single crunch. I thought I might be able to make it, and my opponent makes a very nice snipe there with their Magnezone, getting a whole Volt Switch, and I got to come in with my Jellicent, because Carbink is going to get eaten alive by those, by those mirror shots. So I'm going to call baits here. My opponent just swapped in. There's a chance they don't just go straight Wild Charge because they don't know what I have in the back yet. So I'm no shielding, because if I shield, I lose. So basically all I'm doing here is just trying to call, baits. If I figure if I can, if I go down with the shield, big deal, right? At this point, I'm basically taking gambles. I know that if I spend a shield here, I lose anyway. So I figure I'll just not shield anything and let my opponent be the one to make that decision. And they're going to throw in their Mantine here to catch the Surf just when I was going to go for it. I was trying to farm up a little bit more energy, but I made a mistake and just let them get the farm down. But now I can flip the script here. I can farm them down, and if I can get a Moonblast off on that Magnezone. It's getting pretty low, and that means that there's a chance. I know it's resisted, but again, even resisted moves do damage. Magnezone's a pretty squishy Pokemon, so I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be enough. Now, they have a lot of energy, and they're throwing moves right away. I can't... excuse me. Got that cough still. We got to shield up one Mirror Shot, and I'm just going for this Hail Mary Moonblast. I'm hoping that this is going to be enough, because if I take one more Mirror Shot, I think I'm out. But we take it! Moonblast is enough, and Carbink takes it, and that's a good game. All right, getting into the next battle, we got Empoleon on the lead. This is a really interesting pick, and I like it in this meta, but unfortunately for my opponent, Jellicent is a really strong answer to it, having that Hex damage, Ghost, you know, the Shadow Ball. And I go over by a little bit just in case my opponent wants to catch a move, but they stay in, and they just eat the Shadow Ball. So they may just be looking to sack the Empoleon here and just let it go. Now, I'm going to continue to go for a farm down. I'm kind of guessing here, but I go for 2 hexes, and that's right before they get to the second drill pack. So thankfully, I don't have to take any damage, and I can go straight for a Shadow Ball to force a shield or do huge damage to the Kofagrigus that just came in. Now, my opponent shields up. I have a shield advantage. I bring in my Steelix because I have Crunch, and Carbink is in the back just chilling. I don't know if it's going to have play. I don't know what's in the back yet, but we're going to find out. And I believe this trainer was already Legend, so... You're going to see, if I remember this battle correctly, you're going to see this trainer gets all of my respect because they're awesome, okay? So, excuse me, I shielded the Dark Pulse. I'm going to no-shield this because I don't know what's in the back yet. So I'm going to save a shield for my Carbink, and then my opponent comes in with a Ninjask. And this is it. This is what you're supposed to do when you hit Legend. You just run some silly stuff or run something that you think is good that you were too scared to run, you know, or run something fun, right? And this is why they get my respect, because I love Ninjask as a Pokemon. I think it's really cool, and it's actually kind of awful as far as Go Battle League goes because of how squishy it is and its typing is not that great, but I absolutely give props to my opponent for running it. That was awesome. Good game. All right, getting into the next battle here. There's Jellicent against another Dragonite. We're going to go straight into the Steelix because I have 2 better answers in the back. My opponent comes in with a Vigoroth. Now, this is kind of dangerous. I know that most Vigoroths are running Body Slam and Rock Slide, so I don't have to worry about the charge moves necessarily. But going for Psychic Fangs here is ideal. My opponent swapped in very quickly. If they swapped in a little bit slower, it might have been okay, but they're Legend already, so they have that awareness of needing to get out right away. Now, I shield there because they built up to Bulldoze, and I'm just like, they're Legend. For all I know, they could be running an unorthodox moveset, so I'm like, man, I shouldn't take a chance with this. I'm just gonna shield, and they just throw Body Slams. Now they throw Body Slam right here, and I'm gonna shield. And I'm like, all right, either I'm gonna shield and they're gonna shield, and I'm not gonna get switched, or they're not gonna shield. They're gonna try to preserve that shield. I'm gonna get switched. My Carbink against that Dragonite is ideal. So my opponent decides not to shield. They have a Jellicent. Awkward, very awkward, but it's Bubble Jellicent, which means that this is not as bad as it seems. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to eat this energy. I know it's a Shadow Ball. I have no shields. There's no reason for them to throw anything else. And then I'm going to go for my own Shadow Ball, but I'm actually going to go for a Surf Bait here. But my opponent catches it on the Dragonite, which was just absolutely very heads up by them. Very nicely done. But thankfully, I'm able to absorb enough Dragon Breath damage to get to the Shadow Ball and save it. Now, I need to farm this down. I need to get the shield off of that Jellicent and hope that when my Jellicent comes back in, I win CMP. Now, I'm not going to throw a Rock Slide here because my opponent's win condition basically is calling a Rock Slide and me not getting their shield, because then my Jellicent doesn't really get to do anything in the back. So I go for the Moonblast for the for sure KO or the shield, get the attack drop even, meaning my opponent now gets even more farm. Now it's all up to my Jellicent and Niantic not to give me the 1-turn lag. So we're going to have to see if I'm able to win this game or not, because if I get the 1-turn lag, which I don't, and I win CMP, that 3 attack stat coming in clutch with my Jellicent, taking out the opponent and taking that game. Well played. All right, getting into the next battle here. We got Jellicent on the lead versus a Skeleturge. This is the dream lead here because I have 2 things that can beat it, and my opponent swaps in a Poliwrath, which tells me they are absolutely core broken by Jellicent, but because they swapped out immediately, that tells me that they have one thing in the back that can beat Jellicent. So I'm staying in with my Jellicent here. I'm going to align my Carbink to the Skeledirge, and I'm going to just hope that Steelix can take care of whatever's in the back. Now, I am going to have to shield in this matchup one time. My opponent throws on alignment. They're hoping to win CMP, but my absolute disgust for bad timing, I guess, is going to get me that extra Hex, and I'm just going to go for a Shadow Ball. If the opponent wants to shield again, that's fine, but they don't. Kaboom! I don't have my button ready, so we're going on the fly here. And then we're going to have to see what my opponent has in the back. So they come in with a Chestnut, which, yes, they did have an answer to Jellicent in the back. But thankfully, I have the energy to fire off a Shadow Ball. And I could honestly, stay in here. I have to get farmed down because I absolutely have to align my Carbink to their last Pokemon, their Skeledirge. I cannot let my Steelix be against the Skeledirge because it will just burn right through me. So I immediately swap in my Carbink here. My opponent realizes they have no way to win this game, and unfortunately for them, that's a good game, so well played. You know I respect him, though, for that Skeledirge. I always do. Got a Wheezing on the lead here against my Jellicent. Now, I have to be careful because they're definitely going to be running Brutal Swing. It just makes sense. So they're going to go for it with good timing here. And what I'm looking to do at this point is just try to stay in for a little bit because I don't know if they have Overheat or Play Rough. And if they have Overheat, my Steelix is going to have a very bad time. Carbink is not a bad matchup here, but my opponent lets it go, so now I'm immediately popping it with my Steelix. My opponent very quickly swaps in a Poliwrath here, but this is fine for me because drawing out the Poliwrath means I don't have to deal with it with Carbink, and Jellicent is healthy enough to be able to do some farming if it needs to, and so I feel like I'm in a pretty good position as long as whatever they have in the back is not a hard answer to my Carbink. So they're going to go for the Scald. I've been 50-50 on those calls, man. It seems like whenever I shield, it's an Icy Wind. Whenever I no shield, they hit me with the Scald. So in this case, I tried to go for, I'm trying to go for this farm down situation, right? I want to get them low enough that Jellicent can just hex it down without me having to spend a shield or anything. So this is perfect right here as I'm going to get that hex farm down. I just want to leave it in the red so I can get that farm down. And then I tried to go for a Surf immediately, but the game said, no, you're going to go for a hex. So instead, I'm going to just take the Brutal Swing, go for another Hex, and then hit that Surf, see if my opponent wants to shield or not. And if they do decide to shield, then I'm in a good spot. If they don't decide to shield, then that leaves me with their last Pokemon, and it's a XehrFelrose. We're going to see if they want to shield the Surf. Basically, they shield the Surf, or then they get Rock Throw down. Or I come in with Carbink, and I'm able to get to the Moonblast as long as they don't have, like, Zap Cannon or something. And then my opponent throws long before 5 here. So I think this is a Thunder Punch, but it's actually 4, and it's Trailblaze. So now I'm up against the clock. I have to get to the Moonblast before they get to Trailblaze. Thankfully, we were able to get there, and that is going to take out the Shadow XehrFelrose, and that's going to take that game. Well played to the opponent. Getting into the next battle here, we've got Jellicent on the lead versus another Whimsicott, and I'm already like, dude, I'm losing this game. There's no way. There's no way I win this game. So I immediately pop in with my Steelix because that's going to be the quickest way that I can do some damage. It can tank a Grass Knot if it needs to. My opponent is overloading on energy like a madman. And that's very concerning for me because Grass Knot hits Jellicent and Carbink very hard. My opponent now swaps in a Jellicent to catch the Psychic Fangs, which was a very nice play. I wish I had not thrown the energy like that, but I'm going to go for a Crunch now. My opponent maybe thinks that this is just another Psychic Fangs, but I have Crunch, and I'm going to use it. Crunch hits for a lot of damage, and this is a Bubble Jellicent. My opponent throws their energy immediately, so it's going to tell me that they need 4 more, there's 5 more? I don't know the bubble counts, I know the hex counts, but I know they basically need at least 4 to get to a Shadow Ball, so I know that this is just a Surf, and I'm going to let it go. And at that point, I mean, Whimsicott's going to slap me anyway, so I may as well save my shields to deal with it, right? So I'm going to go now for the Shadow Ball. My opponent, however, gets to their Grass Knot before I'm able to get to my Shadow Ball. So I'm going to shield up, and I'm going to fire back with the Shadow Ball here. And I'm going to be able to hopefully either take the shield from them because they want to commit to this matchup, or I'm hopefully also going to be able to hit them, and they shield. So now I have to stay in. I come in with Carbink now, and the opponent throws the Grass Knot. And I have Jellicent sitting in the back, hopefully waiting in the wings to take care of whatever's in the back. My opponent's staying in this matchup here, meaning I can hit it with some rock throws. I have to either shield or not. I decide not to shield because I'm very close to a rock throw here, or I'm going to try to go for the Moonblast, but I realize I'm not going to get there. So now I'm going to throw this Rock Slide, and I'm going to get I get it low, and then they come in with Skeledirge, and then all of a sudden the planets have aligned, and I'm able to take this game because my opponent does not have the ability to get to 2 charge moves at this point, and they know it, and they concede. and that's a good game well played. And for the record, that is the only Whimsicott I've been able to beat. They are bad. We get a good lead here with Jellicent on the lead versus Skarmory. My opponent immediately swaps in a Dragonair, and I come in with my Steelix. And Steelix basically looking to farm this thing almost all the way down if I can. And honestly, this isn't even bad, because if the opponent comes back in after this matchup, and I realize I'm not going to get that farm down. It was that Hex that put them at half, and I realized that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to farm down, and I've got a lot of energy to do a lot of damage to the Skarmory. I'm going to go for crunches here, and I'm going to do chip damage, and I'm just going to get it as low as I can. They can't really farm me down. It's Steelix. This thing is going to sit here forever if they don't throw energy to get rid of it. So because they are, I don't know if they're going to farm down or not, but I'm going to go for a Psychic Fangs to make them want to throw that energy. And then I'm going to go for the Crunch here if they let me get to it, and they do, which is going to bring them very low. It's going to put them well within Surf range. It's also going to put them within Carbink 2 Shield Rock Throw, or 1 Shield Rock Throw range. So now they're forced to throw energy because they realize that I'm going to get to a Psychic Fangs if I go for another move. So they go for the Sky Attack, take out my Steelix, that's fine. Carbink now comes in because I didn't want them to hit me with a Brave Bird, but because they have a Dragonite in the back, they're expecting the Jellicent to come back in. That's going to cap off a 5-0 to hit Expert in the Great League Remix. A good way to send off the league, is I'm probably not going to play it because I work on Thursday and then I got other stuff to do. So I'm probably not going to play this one for the rest of today, but I'll be able to play Fantasy Cup tomorrow when it rotates in. On stream, you should definitely come check us out. If you want to support the channel, support my family as well. There's a link in the description and the pinned comment. You can go check out the Patreon and the YouTube membership so you can get access to my Discord, early access to teams, meta-analysis, and everything else under the sun, as well as coaching. Check out the link as well for Metafy if you're interested in getting some coaching lessons from myself. All kinds of different lessons to choose from. And that's going to be it for me for today, folks. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you, and have a good one. Bye-bye.